Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
How are we doing, gents? Adam, you're stressed about the football. You were
I'm
saying
just
before.
quietly sweating. I'm wearing a jumper to hide my sweat patches on underneath my shirt. Because I go for North Melbourne. I barrack for North Melbourne, who are the worst in the competition this year. But
it's my understanding as someone who doesn't follow sports whatsoever that North Melbourne is in fact a not very good team.
Oh, wow. See, this is amazing. So they're the worst in the league this year, are they? Because I'm much in George's camp of I don't really follow football that much and understand very little. But the one fact I did know was that my team, the Melbourne Demons, have been trash for always. So I guess this is good news that they're not in the league this year.
Well, do you know what, Tom? You're in luck this year because this is the fourth round, and the Melbourne's playing later today. But they've played 3 games, yet they're still third on the ladder. So Melbourne might be Melbourne's year this year, Tom. So maybe you'll have to go and watch some sports ball and just embrace the Melbourne culture.
I got stuck in post-sports ball traffic last night, and I was raging. So, not partaking in that.
Don't ever drive to a game, whatever you do. Don't drive in games, around games, near games, or in games. It's not a good time.
Yeah, very much so. When the car plows through the midfield, it's generally a bad sign.
No, they've got barriers up for that now and other things.
Oh, bloody, PC culture. Can't get hit by a car, can't do anything nowadays.
You can't even do donuts in the middle of the MCG.
What are we joking about?
I don't know. Who knows? Who honestly knows at this point? So this is a news and politics podcast, as you might have picked up from the several minutes of wasted chat about sports at the top of the show. You might have
better than the wasted few minutes of sports chat at the end of most other news shows.
What do you mean? Well, like on a TV show where they try and have some banter, and it's just
just at the end of the news report, they're always like, "And in sports," and I'm like, "What? Why this?" Why do we have this?
Sports is news. It goes in the back of the page of the paper, so it's important.
Sorry, Joe, I keep cutting you off, George. No, go.
You go.
No, you go. No, you hang up.
No, you hang up. But
so there's this. I forget how we got there, but in terms of sports chat at the end of here we go. Sports chat at the end of a news program, right? There was 2 female anchors on ABC News 24. Depending on sort of when you're watching, obviously people switch out, but often these 2, women are together quite often. And there was their regular sports guy who they mentioned by name was Jared. And it was a very awkward moment a couple of weeks ago where one of them said something to the effect of like, "Oh, and here's the very handsome Jared with the sports report," kind of thing. Just like making a sort of a big deal about how handsome he looked and I was just like, this seems like if the roles were reversed, this would feel like it would be national news, given the current climate. But
or at least just people would be cringing online.
I mean,
which maybe they were in this instance as well. But yeah, that just feels a bit. I just feel a bit thrown by that. Like having done some newsroomy stuff myself.
As was Jared. Jared seemed very thrown. He was like, "I don't know what to make of that." Like, don't get me wrong, he looked good, but like. It just seemed inappropriate. Anyway, just that made me think of awkward end sports reporting.
Yeah, because if I was like out the front of, I'm waiting out the front of the courthouse to talk about like some thing, and they're like, "And we now cross live to our court reporter Tom, who's not too bad on the eyes either. Tom, tell us about the murder trial." Yeah. I'll be like,
Tom, tell us about the man who killed his own children, sweet tits.
Yeah, and then just. I do my bit and back to you, George. And George is just like,
"Thanks, gorgeous."
That was Tom there reporting on I don't know what. I got lost in his eyes. Now an earthquake in Kuala Lumpur, and
now sports and weather.
Yeah. My favorite
who's definitely my male friend with the finest ass. Anyway, back to you in the studio.
My favorite transition. It's not really. Oh yeah, it is vaguely sexist. There was Channel 10, and there was transitioning out of the article. They were talking about the Ashes, the
cricket thing.
Cricket thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he turns out of the article, he goes, "Well, I don't know what the lady's name is. Let's just call her Janice. Well, Janice, I didn't know that such big things could come in such small packages. And then she goes, well, you would know about that, wouldn't you, Gerald?
No.
Next in weather. Just dead bad.
Love it. Yes.
It's the best. Still
Burn
on YouTube.
him.
Google
Do
an
it.
awkward moment.
Amazing.
Speaking
anyway,
of
we've bantered
awkward
for
moments
5
in the
minutes
news.
with some bullshit. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you might have known from the ABC's extensive rolling coverage that Prince Phillip, the Duke of Edinburgh, remains dead. I know. Yeah. So still dead as of
the story
as
it developed.
I did notice that the ABC, ABC 24. Obviously, there's 24 hours in a day, and boy, did they fill them with Prince Phillip content. There's you never would have thought that Prince still being dead at 99. Gone too young as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
he only lived merely a century. And all the people joking at like, oh, he was only 2 months away from getting his letter from the Queen when he turned 100. Hilarious. Anyway, here's 45 minutes about his life, and I'm like, why can we get to the next loop? What loop are we in?
Tone has been very interesting with a lot of that coverage. I guess we'll get to like comments from people in a minute, but like just all the articles I've read, we've all read a lot of like, the biographical piece usually comes out when someone of significance has died. They feel, I don't know, the Prince Phillip ones.
They had that in the barrel, bro. They had that one ready to go.
Yeah, they've had
99. They've had that shit in the chamber for fucking 9 years, ready to go.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was watching the football. The story broke in Australia, like at sort of 9 o'clock or something, like midway through the game. And they literally said, breaking news. They cut to the story, and then they rolled a 45-second package, which obviously the marketing intern has worked on, like, probably from 2013 or something. They've just wheeled it back out.
Yeah, and Daryl's like, yep, all right, boys, it's my time to shine.
But yeah, like the tone in so many of the articles, at least on the ABC that I've read, have been very much like, really like, just uses of language that are really like blowing smoke up his ass. Like, it's like much more than you normally get out of those things. Like, I mean, you get those things of like, when other like significant figures die, like, yeah, it's the whole, even bastards turn to good blokes once they're dead kind of thing. But it just seems next level with Prince Phillip, which I found quite surprising. But he was the
Queen's husband, Tom. You don't understand. It's the monarchy. They're special. They're different.
And it's really important because what we're seeing here is Prince Phillip not just marrying Queen Elizabeth. We're seeing him marrying the crown and serving her for the next 70 years.
She is the job.
In fact, those biographical things go into a lot of details of their early relationship, which we were talking about the other day. When I was like, I know it was the 40s, but it's still pretty weird. I mean, I know they're like a 5-year age gap, I think.
Yeah, so
5 or 6 or
they
something
met
like that.
when he was 13 and she was 8 years old.
Yeah, right. And so, like, my partner Alice and I, we're 4 years apart. So, like, I mean, I know like 5-year difference between spouses isn't that crazy. I think it kind of is, though, when like the context when you met them.
When you're prepubescent?
Yeah, when he was 13, she was 8.
Guys, you're reading into it. It wasn't like they were shagging when they were 13.
Yeah, I had lots of 8-year-old friends when I was 13, obviously.
Yeah, like,
the normal stuff.
She's 8. Yeah, meets when she's 8, he's 13. Flash forward to when he's 18, Adam, and then he's tasked with chaperoning, I think, Elizabeth and Margaret, and they were 13 and 9, I think, respectively. So essentially babysitting them. But after that event, that's when Elizabeth said she was in love with him, and they started exchanging letters, which to me sounds like some Drake, Millie Bobby Brown shit. Right? Like,
grooming.
You're just like exchanging correspondence with a child.
It's not grooming if it's sanctioned by the British Parliament, Tom. Come on.
I just mean, if you're sitting there writing letters, or like, you're babysitting this 13-year-old and you're like, you know what? One day I'm going to fuck this child. That's kind of weird. I don't know. I know it was a different time.
Tom Heath, 2021. Isolate it.
It feels kind of weird. And then on top of that, the articles would say, oh, yes, and, also they were third cousins through Queen Victoria, and that Philip's uncle was Elizabeth's grandfather. And I'm like, fucking what? Like,
it does
Jesus
explain.
Christ.
It does explain Prince Andrew, if nothing else. You do have to wonder about these royals and their royal bloodlines and their
vampires, right? Isn't that the werewolves or something? Isn't that the?
Well, what do you mean?
Wasn't the? I'm thinking of Doctor Who, but
in Doctor Who,
It was
that
an episode
Queen
with
Victoria,
Queen Victoria.
yeah, she was bitten by a lichen. Oh no, the like werewolf monks were trying to turn her into a werewolf, and because Queen Victoria, I thought the actual historical connection the writers used was she had a strange blood disease.
Yes,
Queen Victoria,
Hemophilia.
Yeah, she had a blood disease.
Just really loves blood.
Mm.
What I was saying is like you do have to wonder about these royals and their, they're very, these bloodlines and how these sort of organizations have come about. Like they really don't seem like the best and brightest, do they? They really do seem like a bunch of sort of, inbred European princes.
Well, that's a monarchy, isn't it?
And
no, but it's not like you know what I mean. They're not like Superman. They don't look like Clark Kent. It's not like the best. It's just kind of like
Prince Andrew and Harry are alright looking, if you know what I mean.
Prince Harry's looking okay. He's the one that he was in the military and doing lots of
They're all in the military, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's like
but like some
right?
more than others.
Well, yeah, but like fucking Philip's whole thing was his naval career or whatever. Because I was discussing this with Alice afterwards. I was like, okay, I get why people might be like, oh, condolences to the Queen or whatever, and all that sort of stuff. But the people who were like really upset about his death, what did he do? Like,
the role he played in the institution, Tom,
which was
support the crown.
Supporting pom-poms and
thing.
just doing lots of cheerleading stuff, doing a flip.
Yeah, like what was there a charity or a policy that like is his legacy, or was there like some kind of speech he gave?
He is famous for doing a lot of charity work and for doing obviously the Duke of Edinburgh program, which was like sort of community based. Like it was done at my high school, where it's a lot of like community servicey type stuff. I mean, to the extent that Prince Phillip was like personally administering any of this sort of stuff.
I was gonna say
wonders.
that sounds like a bunch of stuff where they just it's like Krusty the Clown, just chuck my name on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have had a short and jocular conversation with Prince Phillip. So
you've met him?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
We exchanged phone numbers and had a night, but not really.
Was his phone number like 1? Imagine like the phone number for Buckingham Palace.
The Queen
is like,
is 1. He's obviously 2.
Yeah, the international UK code and then 1. And you get like straight landline to Lizzie.
That's actually, you've got to have all the digits there. So it's 000000001, and then you get through to
you got to imagine when they were first inventing the telephones, there was something like this going on. There were only been like half a dozen telephones invented,
numbers,
and so the numbers would just be like, oh hey, is Carl there? Oh no, you've called 6. Oh sorry, I meant to call 7. Sorry,
wrong number.
Wrong number. Literal wrong singular number.
Yeah, but also we've seen, following the announcement of Prince Philip's death, like already they're making, crazy tabloids making a drama out of this, saying that it was the Harry and Meghan interview that killed him. That the stress of them coming out and burning the family in front of Oprah was the stress that finally did him in. Never mind the literal century that probably did most of the heavy lifting.
I mean, the heavy drinking and smoking and other philandering that he did in his 30s and 40s had nothing to do with it, Tom.
Well, I mean, probably doesn't when you've lived like another good 70 years post that.
The guy would have lived to 200 if he wasn't, just constantly fucking in the 50s. Like the guy, he would have outlived us all.
So what are they saying? They're saying that
because that interview aired. What was it? 2 months ago?
Yeah. Whatever,
something like that.
Like a month,
a month or so ago. Yeah,
and he's been in and out of hospital and all this sort of stuff. So of course, places like the Telegraph and all those, British tabloid media and all those sorts of people are just trying to find another reason why Meghan Markle is this evil woman who killed Prince Philip. Apparently,
what I want to know is what did Meghan Markle, however you pronounce her name. What did she do to Rupert Murdoch? What did
maybe she was like with Piers Morgan? She went on a date with him and then never called him back.
Oh no!
I don't know.
She on a date with Piers Morgan?
She did.
Well,
yeah, she went on one date with him, and then like sort of like they never like.
It didn't even sound like it was a
again.
date. It was like they caught up for a drink because they'd like met in famous people circles before. It's like, oh, I'm in London. Let's grab a drink. They grabbed a drink, and then he never heard from her again. And he seems to be really butthurt about that.
Yes.
Like, he's really hung up on it.
Also very old, if I remember Piers Morgan, but anyway.
And also a huge piece of shit. So
yeah, and they basically like him leaving his network recently was all about this, where he's basically going on again after this interview aired a month ago, whatever it was. Piers Morgan went on another tirade, and basically his co-hosts were like, "Mate, let it go. It was 10 years ago. She never would have gone out with you anyway." And he fucking stormed off and then quit the network.
Like, I don't have to take this. I'm like, fuck off, mate.
Anyway, so where were we? So Prince Phillip still dead. Harry and Meghan did not kill him, as you say, Tom. Nigh on a century of hard living might have done that, but it does sort of As soon as I saw the story, I was like, great, we're just going to see like the absolute worst of the internet, the tabloid culture. Like, don't get me wrong. I like, okay, obviously he meant a lot to a lot of people. I'm not like a royalist. I think we should all be a democracy and a republic. I don't know where you guys fit. Here's where I fit on the royalist spectrum. Right. I'm not part of the IRA. I'm not going to put, bombs in mailboxes or anything to make sure that we have a republic or anything. But I watch The Crown. So I'm like somewhere in between, I watch The Crown. But I watch The Crown and it's pretty good. So I'm like halfway. I'm sort of, I think we should be a republic, but like, let's not kill them or anything. Let's just phase them out. Like,
wait until, when eventually Her Majesty
has Ghislaine Maxwell whacked.
Then you might find that Eddie Maguire and Malcolm Turnbull come out of the woodwork and start the Republic cannon back up again. But anyway,
I don't know. But you hear our current Prime Minister sounds like he wants to be the new Duke of Edinburgh.
Oh my god, the fawning coverage from Scott Morrison, and he took on this tone. So it was this press conference this week where Scott Morrison was talking about how fucking excellent Prince Phillip was and all this sort of stuff, and it's like, okay. In the morning and the country and the years of service and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, he's dead. Like, he can't hear you, right? So who is this for? Is this for the Queen? It just felt like he was like, the tone felt so self-important. It just kind of felt like he was delivering a speech that he knew would be like filmed and part of his legacy. Like, this was one of his big speeches kind of thing. And it was just kind of like, why blowing so much smoke up the royal family's ass, man? Who knows if the Queen's even going to see this? You're just some minor, far-flung colonial nation that the Queen barely thinks about. Like, who cares what you think?
He fucking said something like, "Let us be here for you now," and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, this has huge. The friend I've been attracted to for ages is finally single. Energy. Let me be here for you.
ScoMo's texting the Queen. Hey babe, you up?
I'm
here if you need a shoulder to cry on, babe.
Yeah, I mean,
fucking hell.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I guess if the head of state of any other country, if their partner died, it probably would be something similar. I guess it's weird though, because the Queen is so far removed from the Australian society that it's less. It's not like Scott Morrison's wife died, or
Jenny, the moral center of the universe.
Joe Biden's wife.
What would we do if Scott Morrison's wife died? The Republic would be in chaos.
I think we probably would struggle if Jenny passed away, to be honest. I think she has a bit more of a hand.
She's the only thing holding the fucking government together. Jenny's helpline. Bring, hello, Jenny Morrison. Is this sexual assault?
But look, it's funny because my grandfather is a massive monarchist, and I haven't had a chance to speak to him yet to really delve into his feelings, but I suspect he's probably a bit cut up about it, but I'll report back next week, and we'll see what the feeling is from an insider.
Is he also a huge DMX fan?
No, unfortunately not.
DMX also passed away.
You're talking
this
about
week,
the rapper DMX, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I remember you telling me
not the slot that goes in a lighting board, which is a DMX slot.
I actually thought it was a BMX. I thought it was a mountain bike initially, but there you go. A man here died at the age of 50 after was a drug related heart failure. Or
I
something,
think, I had a heart attack. I think after an overdose, he'd been like in a coma effectively for like at least a week.
So what we can determine
away.
from this is that DMX squared equals Prince Phillip. If we're any kids doing algebra out there, then
I'm just going to get the bow and I'm going to draw it back here. I'm going to draw it back as far as it can go.
How long did you spend coming up with that one?
Got to bed around 2:30. So the reason that we're bringing up all of this Prince Phillip stuff is Prince Phillip, still as of recording, remains dead as far as I'm aware. And
we talk half as long as we criticize people for talking about it.
No, stay tuned. There will be another 45 minutes of content on this. So,
look, I know you guys don't care about it, but there is a certain group of people. There are many people in the world, but there's a certain particular group of people that do care quite a lot about Prince Phillip.
Thank you.
And they are a tribe in Vanuatu who, not only, I think, I'm not sure if Vanuatu is part of the Commonwealth. They may be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they are. But they literally think Prince Phillip is their god.
Well, they think he is the son of a god.
I mean, if you're the son of a god, you're kind of a god, though, aren't you? Really?
Godish,
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like Hercules. Not really a god, but sort of like...
More like Hercules. Disney Hercules.
It's a pretty niche tribe as well. It's not like it's a widely held view by... It's not like Scientology, which is crazy, but beliefs held by thousands of people. This is like...
or the Catholic Church. So, village leader Sicko Nat One has a portrait here of Prince Phillip, and he's pictured in this article. And they believe he was the part of an ancient prophecy where the pale-skinned son of a mountain god just like traveled around the place looking for powerful women to marry. And I guess they met Prince Phillip at some point, and like, that meets the description of the thing that we said earlier. And he said, sure, let's chat. And he maintained a relationship with these guys since the 70s, where they've exchanged gifts and correspondence. And it does seem a little bit like he's leading them on, doesn't it?
I mean, to fairness, the articles describe it as not a tribe. It's actually a cult. It's called the Prince Phillip Movement. And it's a particular tribe, the Yahonanan. I'm going to pronounce that way.
I'm sure you won't get any letters.
Southern island of Tanna in Vanuatu. So it's pretty niche. But to be fair, the British have. It's weird. They did like a reality TV show, and they got like 5 dudes from this sect. They like shipped them over to the UK to meet Prince Phillip. I'm like, I feel like you're exploiting them. I feel like you're exploiting them a little bit for entertainment.
Exploiting them for entertainment. And they say they've exchanged letters and gifts and everything. You just know Prince Phillip was sitting there sort of being like, it's those people that think I'm a god or something, and chuckle because, he was king of the gaff.
Good one, good one. Now send him a picture of me with a club. Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It feels so wrong for them to just kind of... Just like, I know it's sort of a thing of like not trying to get into like other like cultures' business, although we are talking about Britain here. But yeah, it just feels so wrong for them to just kind of like, humor them, let them have their fun in that sense. Like, they think I'm a god. Let's just I'm down with that.
It's weird to like think. Did they try and like stop it, or was it like
no, stop? No, I'm not a god. Quit it. You guys are so weird. Anyway, here's some more photos of me. Put them up wherever.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's not cool.
So they're going to mark his death with ritual wailing. And I did read an article which has been now pay blocked by the Telegraph. Well, it's from the Telegraph, so
it suits you right for trying to read the Telegraph.
Yeah, they were thinking that the succession now goes to obviously to Charles. I think was what I was reading in that article.
Right.
So we'll see how that works out.
I mean, good luck with that. We all know the Queen will stay alive forever. to make sure that Charles never inherits the throne.
Well, but then again, Philip never had the throne either.
I know, yeah, but like she wouldn't have. I don't think she would have minded it if Philip had it. She seems like slightly embittered towards Charles. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
Just got some soft inside knowledge there.
I watched The Crown. Okay, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about, bro. Okay, I'm basically up to date with all the royal stuff. So
up until the end of the 80s.
Up until just before Princess Diana dies.
Yeah, everything after that, who knows? Andrew, what's his significance?
Yeah, who's Prince Andrew? Oh, this Diana girl seems great. I wonder what happened to her. Oh no, stay tuned. The thing that I find really interesting about the Sydney Morning Herald article about this cult, whatever you want to call them, tribe who worshipped him as a god, was that they keep taking pains to mention that Prince Phillip was like a famous racist, which I mean he was. Like he did have a habit of he did suffer quite chronically actually from perennial foot and mouth disease, and it was an affliction that haunted him his entire life. But he did seem to constantly put his foot in it pretty consistently, as it were. But they're like. And can you imagine that these brown people like Prince Phillip, when he's a racist? I'm like, yes, thank you, Sydney Morning Herald. It's very Sydney Morning Herald of you to keep pointing that out. Like,
you're saying, it did feel like the tone wasn't that they were sort of having a fair balance of, here's all the racist things he said along with this story. It was more like these people, these people of color liked him in spite of his racism.
And they're brown. Look at them.
I don't think these two things intersect quite in that way. That feels a bit odd to kind of point out. It feels like you're kind of trying to, again, bastards become good blokes when they're dead. This situation.
Well, I don't know what you mean. I mean, Prince Phillip, he may have asked an Aboriginal person if they still throw spears at each other as a joke.
He was joking. It was a hilarious joke, Adam. Okay, also genuinely curious, but also mostly a joke if you call me out on it.
Yeah, it's a joke, depending on your response.
Yeah, last time I was here was in a boat in the 50s, so, I mean, who knows what's going on over there.
Yeah. Anyway, the best joke I've seen about it was someone just purely tweeting Duke of Dedinburgh. So, yep, that person wins the joke contest. It finally happened. The man who was a gajillion years old is now no longer alive. We all saw it coming.
Too young as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And as of time of recording, still dead. Still dead.
Yep. if and when that changes,
we'll bring you more as it develops.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you guys are getting so hung up at the fact that it's been dominating the news cycle. It's not like there's anything else important happening in the world, guys.
I can't think of anything.
Nothing at all.
The fact that Australia is now banned the AstraZeneca vaccine for people under 50 or not recommending it is, it doesn't matter. That's fine. The fact that you're not going to get vaccinated now till probably next year, don't worry about it.
It's the pandemic.
Prince Phillip's dead. So back to the main story. Sorry.
And just receiving a quick update. Still dead.
Yep.
So. You might have noticed if you're watching Insiders this morning, as I want to do, Shadow Health Minister Mark Butler, who is a human being that we now know the name of, criticises the Australian federal government's COVID-19 vaccine rollout, saying that more options should have been secured. So, so the news this week, the AstraZeneca vaccine does have the unfortunate side effect for 1 in 250,000 people of causing an issue with blood clots. So it's called VIPIT. Essentially, what it can do is it affects the vaccine can affect the platelet count in a very, very small number of people, and that can have serious health consequences and, potentially in a very small number of people be deadly. So the risk ratio that I've seen highlighted has been 1 in 250,000.
It says here in this article, 1 in 500,000 people. But
when we're talking in hundreds of thousands, there's a bit of a margin for error there. Say it's 100 and 250,000 people can get the condition. It's only 1 in a million that would actually die of said condition. So it's not a major concern for me. I think we as humans are really poor at calculating risk, as evidenced by people foregoing the vaccine to then potentially get coronavirus and have a 1 in 100 chance of dying from coronavirus because they're like, oh, the Astra vaccine isn't safe because there's a 1 in a million chance of dying versus the 1 in 100 chance of dying if I got the coronavirus. It's just like we're very bad at sort of assessing those differences. And it doesn't help that the Australian federal government, I think, has overcorrected this week by saying that not only is it not recommended for people under 50, but now they're saying, for people under 30, they were initially saying, and then later on, within the space of about 48 hours, the messaging became for people under 50, saying that they shouldn't have the AstraZeneca
in line
vaccine.
with what Europe's been doing, right? Europe's basically been doing this for the last couple of weeks.
So what do you think sort of motivated that decision making? Obviously, the federal government has said it's based on the health advice, but like obviously the health advice 48 hours previous wasn't different to what it was 48 hours later. So what do you guys think is going on there?
They've been getting data from Europe. So they basically said that there's not enough data in Australia to really make a determination on that. But they've been getting the information from overseas, and it takes time for data to coalesce. So once you get all that information, you can make some reasonable determinations. And I think it's basically, I mean, it'd be, you can't, the Australian government can't sit here, whether it's based on health advice or not, they can't flog a vaccine off to everyone where the rest of the world is doing something completely different and the advice is different. Like, that doesn't look right. So
50 seems conservative though, based on
I think I have to be
what I understand. Yeah, but I don't know. Yes, you want to be conservative, but I think unfortunately it has the opposite effect where people go, oh, we don't want to freak out the public. But by being so uber conservative about who's allowed to have this vaccine now, it makes people think like, oh, is it not safe? Like, what's wrong with it that I can only have it if I'm over 50? And a lot of the way that health messaging has been rolled out is people think like, oh, they just think that people over 50 are expendable. And that's why they're allowed. It's like, no. The actual risk of anything happening to someone over the age of 50 is substantially less. That's why they're saying it's okay. So for those people, it is genuinely an okay vaccine. But my mum, for example, people I know in their 60s have heard that and go, don't take the Astra, it's not safe, right?
Yeah.
And I understand, what are you going to do when other countries in Europe are being overly cautious? To do nothing might look bad optics-wise. So you need to do something, but it seems like they've overcorrected and it's actually going to have a deleterious effect on the already snail's pace of a vaccine rollout that we've got here in Australia.
The problem is that we're, in terms of the rollout, we're so far behind the 8 ball here that we're reactive to anything that happens, on the other side of the world. So, yeah, from an optics point, there's no way of getting around it. It's going to be a shit time. And it sucks because it just lends credence to the anti-vax movement, where they're going to see, I told you so. I know that, that they've still got the Pfizer vaccine here in Australia, but that's the only other viable alternative at the moment. I know Johnson & Johnson, the US, I think they've got their alternative. It's being rolled out in collaboration with another company, but
apparently the Johnson & Johnson vaccine may have the exact same issues as the AstraZeneca vaccine. If it works on the same methodology, then you're going to have the exact same issues with it. I think it's something that is really quite frustrating. Is like we as a species just really don't calculate risk well. For example, I did a bit of Googling. I was like, I'm just curious, what are the death rates for paracetamol?
George, are you saying you did your own research here?
I did. Well, I pulled up a article from the Medical Journal of Australia, so it's a reputable source. I didn't, I'm not one of those anti-vaxxers. I'm going to do my own fucking research, and here's some cunt that I looked at on YouTube. No, this is like from a reputable publication. So it's published 2nd of September 2019, and it basically did an analysis of overdosing from paracetamol, and obviously it mentions that there's some increase over time between, sort of the timeline that they looked at from, 2004 to current day. But the annual figures in Australia are around 205 deaths annually from paracetamol use. So say it's 1 in a million that could get a blood clot and die from this AstraZeneca vaccine. And we've got 25 million people in Australia. You're talking about 25 people potentially, or thereabouts, that may die if we roll this vaccine out immediately to everyone. that's still like a tenth of the amount of people that die every year from paracetamol use. So it's like we don't think of them as the same thing, though. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't say if I told you Panadol is 10 times as deadly as the AstraZeneca vaccine. Well, that'd probably just make you scared of Panadol. But like the point is to say like these are things that we do with regularity. When you're talking about the laws of large, massive numbers, when you're talking about every single person in the world, we need to get vaccinated with this disease. Like there is a certain, like getting in the car and going for a 1 hour drive, there is a 1 in a million chance that you will die on that drive. We have a road toll, which is in the hundreds every year. It's bad. It's horrible, but we don't go, well, it's fucking ban cars. Everyone's got to walk. Like there's a risk to, risk ratio.
Some of those risks, though, you've got control over. Whereas if you have the vaccine, you haven't got control over that. So
but what's the alternative? Is that we don't roll out the vaccine, and then there's another wave. Like it's not as though the alternative is like, oh, we just won't have the vaccine. Then we need the vaccine in order to get everything going, moving people traveling around. Like we can't just not do that. So
Britain's in a real pickle at the moment because they've been. I mean, they rolled out pretty hard with the AstraZeneca vaccine, straight up. But now they've got to basically, they've done the same thing where it's being limited by age. But they've got no other vaccine alternative either. And the UK has got one of the highest, transmission and death rates. So, or had previously. So, yeah, I mean, there are certain countries that are just, especially like, look at things like the developing world.
Okay, but like by pausing it, how many more people will definitely die from coronavirus that otherwise wouldn't have died but if they'd been vaccinated? You know what I mean? Like it seems like we're trading a slightly imperfect option for a obviously not very good option, being people getting coronavirus and dying. So like,
I don't see why we can't just get the Sinovac vaccine and the Russian one. Like, let's roll those out in the West.
Let's get the Sputnik.
Do you think that would actually happen? Like, I don't think.
I think there is absolutely no fucking institutional trust for Russian or Chinese vaccines right now. Absolutely not.
The Sinovac one, though, has been rolled out to large portions of the world as the primary methodology to in their vaccination programs. Like,
sure, it may be a good vaccine. The fact is just like we don't have the data to say whether it's safe, and I think there's just a total lack of trust. I have no trust whatsoever for the Russian and Chinese governments who have their own vaccine programs. Like, and neither do like a lot of right thinking people. It's not as though it may be a good vaccine. We'll never know. Like, yeah.
It's hard to get data as well, I think, in a lot of other countries. Like, the fact is, this has been picked up in Europe, which has good methodologies in place to be able to actually process the information coming in. But like, it'd be interesting to see what are some of the side effects in other countries which have had the vaccine rolled out in, which may not necessarily have the same follow up or traction with it.
And I think I predict that the Australian federal government here will use this as an excuse for why the vaccine rollout has been going so poorly and why it will take longer now than it did before. They'll be like, oh, it was all going to plan until we had to pull the AstraZeneca vaccine. Man, it would have been such a good vaccine rollout if it weren't for that. Meanwhile, the target for this time was like 4 million plus vaccines, and we've administered less than 1 million at this stage. So like we're 25% to target. And I just go, oh man, it really shucks about the AstraZeneca. If it weren't for that, it would have gone all fucking swimmingly.
It's not well timed in that regard. I just think that it just shows that we're going to be sitting in our houses and not going to Bali for the foreseeable future.
Oh dang!
Tom, you telling me you don't want to go to that beach holiday? With
big Bali fan, Tom Heath.
Yeah.
So Mark Butler, whose name we learned this week, was the shadow minister, and he was saying, slinging a bit of shit at the Liberal government, saying, "Oh, we should have had 4 deals or 5 deals with Pfizer and deals with Johnson & Johnson and other," and it's like, yeah, I mean that's true. That's probably all well and good. I would like to see the Labor government be a little bit more on the front. Labor Party.
Opposition.
Yeah, the opposition party being a little bit more on the front foot with the criticism, especially considering that the government has like so thoroughly fucking mishandled this whole vaccine rollout. I mean, we can, I saw Albo was, had a snag this week. So that's good.
Oh, yeah, sick.
That's good. Certainly not missing in action.
Oh, Labor's annoying.
I used to think
their messaging isn't as good.
I used to think that it's like Liberal Party bad, Labor Party good. And now I'm just like, Liberal Party bad, Labor Party completely fucking inept.
Yeah.
It's just like I really do get frustrated that there isn't a more credible opposition, that the left in this country is like too scared to be the attack dogs that they need to be if they actually want to be in government. And like we can win all the moral victories we want, but if we don't win any fucking elections, then there's no point. Like, and we don't have time for this. We don't have time with the climate crisis. We don't have time with the vaccine rollout. Like, we don't have time to sit and wait around for everyone to just wake up and go, oh, it seems like we could use a bit of a change. 10 consecutive Liberal governments in as the planet melts. So just like, you know what? I think we'll try to give the other guys a bit of a go. I don't know if these guys are doing too good, as their face melts, like in fucking, Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones, like, I don't know. Like, that's how long it's going to take before everyone, tries to give the other side a go. We need a little bit more urgency in what's going on in our messaging and in our. It's just not happening.
In our.
Are
you part of the Labor marketing department?
I mean, I'll be honest. I favour one party over the other. Keen listeners might have noticed that I do favour one party over the other. I don't know if you're aware of that, Adam, but
I mean, I don't know.
I had an inkling.
And that's right.
Balance
it is
and
the
fair.
Hunters and Fishers party. Nailed it. So I just made a little list as I was collecting my thoughts today before the show as to the things the Liberal federal government has nailed during this term of their tenure in government.
Mm-hmm.
The COVID Safe app, nailed it.
Yep, nailed
Success.
The aged care COVID crisis, obviously nailed that. Aged care.
Handled perfectly.
Ruby Princess, that was handled by Border Force.
New South Wales.
New South Wales, but it was Border Force.
New South Wales state government there, George.
Blaming the state government for something which was a federal government responsibility. Classic LNP government. The vaccine rollout, obviously, which we've just been talking about. Getting Australians home during the COVID crisis, which they have spectacularly failed to do.
Everyone's home. What do you mean? Everyone is here. They're all
everyone
here in our hearts.
Yeah, I was going to say, rather than, doing anything to get them home, if we just revoke their citizenship, then all the Australians are home.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point, Tom. Semantics, but I like
one way to do it.
Obviously, the bushfires, ScoMo's
God.
I don't hold a hose, mate, will live in infamy. Doubling the cost of arts degrees. They didn't have time to implement the report on Kate Jenkins's, what was the name of that report? Safety... Respect at work, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
With the 55 recommendations that they announced this week, they're like, we're definitely doing all 55. But if you actually look at the fine print, they're like, we're doing some of them partially, sort of. Okay, so you're not really doing all 55. You're doing the ones that you like and not any of the ones that would actually make a difference, but that's fine. So they had time for that, for the doubling the cost of arts degrees and not for the Respect at Work report. And Robodebt. Just dropping a little robo-debt in there.
Really nailed robo-debt.
I mean, this federal government has been value for money. They've been absolutely nailing it. I think
you're talking about stuff from the last... I mean, we go back further, because technically they've been in government since 2013, so... Just
8 consecutive years of totally infallible government, Adam. I don't know who could ask for more.
But the unemployment rate's dropping and GDP's on the rise, and it's all looking good, George. I don't know, mate. It's all looking good.
Pretty sure the deficit is the debt is the highest it's ever been, multiple orders of magnitude higher than the last Labor government. But that's fine.
It doesn't matter if we're spending it; it's fine.
If the other side's spending it, then we're the shrewd economic managers that need to come in here and clean up this mess. But if we're spending it, we're giving tax cuts to corporations completely fucking needlessly, spending billions of dollars in the process, that's fine. That's good economic management. When the other side wants to spend money on hospitals and schools and, vaccine rollout, well, they're just being, we don't have the money. We don't have the money in the bank. We've only got money for jets. Okay. It's $24 billion for the jet program. Okay. That's money well spent. Shrewd economic managers.
That was actually something that came up. I can't remember how we got onto it, but I made a reference to the submarine manufacturing thing, and my partner Alice was in the room, and she actually just said, "Do we have those submarines yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, of course we don't."
Still no,
we don't. The submarines will take probably another decade or more to come.
Oh yeah.
At all. Maybe the first one might be ready in a decade, possibly.
So already be obsolete by then.
We didn't have time to finish those submarines. We're too busy putting this pork in this here barrel. What was the question again?
Now, economic enhancement, George. It's all about economic stimulus, multiplier effects, and
Kylie Jenner economically enhanced her lips. It's the same, exactly the same.
Insure those lips against damages.
So. Yeah, the long and short of that story was everything's cooked and the Labor Party's not holding the government to account, and everything's trash. So,
trash.
Good news is the Morrison government came up with another announcement. That's what they're good at. They're definitely good at announcements.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard about this one, but the Morrison government announced that there was going to be another 20 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine. Following the AstraZeneca concerns.
Which one?
Of the AstraZeneca.
No, sorry. It secures 20 million additional doses of the Pfizer vaccine following the AstraZeneca concerns. So that's
most of the population.
I mean, that's 10 million. That's most adults
doses,
in Australia.
Right. So I forget if that's 20 million people's worth, or if it's 20 million literal injections.
Yeah, so the Johnson & Johnson one is a one shot. So, but all the other ones are two shots as far as I'm aware. So, which is great. They've announced it, so they get the big pat on the back, and everyone goes, "Good job, Scotty. Good job. You got the doses." It's like, have you actually got the doses? Have they arrived? When are they coming? Unimportant.
We'll fail a memorandum of understanding.
We'll fail at that later. Okay, right now, I just want you to give me a big pat on the head for a good fucking announcement. Hey, Scotty, I've got an announcement as well. I got 50 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine. It's obviously not going to happen, but I've announced it, so that's almost just as good.
It is. You watch Utopia and you just go, got to have announceables for the government.
Yeah. I'd imagine it's the same as what was the TV show, Rostered On, the Australian TV show about a retail shop. I watched the first episode of that with my partner, and I was like, I'm sure this is very good, but I can't watch this because I have been in these meetings.
It's too triggering
these aren't
for you.
jokes for me. I've been in these meetings. Yeah, it's almost when it's too close to home, it's not funny anymore. It's just sad.
Yeah,
I muted myself so you guys could hear me coughing, but the audience couldn't hear me coughing. So now they just think you're a bad person, Adam.
Yeah, Adam's just like, oh yeah, spoilers, everybody. I know something George doesn't.
I'm sure he has coronavirus because I fucking put it there.
Yeah.
Spicy cough.
Open any powdered mail lately, George?
You know what? It did taste a bit like I lick all my envelopes, the ones I receive, I mean, it's just really spicy. I don't know what they're putting in there nowadays, but very powdery kind of envelopes coming in. Yeah. So do we think that? I mean, do we expect that anything is going to improve with the vaccine rollout? Like, obviously, we've highlighted some of the problems on the program today and previously about rolling it out with GPs and GPs being in the dark and just being kind of old and confused about things generally. Do you guys have high hopes for what it's going to look like the next 6 months?
Oh, high hopes? No, but I guess it's a thing of if it's coming down to confusion and all those sorts of things as time goes on. Ideally, people will be less confused.
What do you mean by confused?
Like, if it's confusion about like, oh, like, as we talked about with GPs, like when are our doses turning up? Or like, oh, wait, but hang on, which ones are we getting? Hang on, do we give it to people who are only under 30 or under 50 or da 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 da? Like by its very nature, like the more time passes, the more people might wrap their heads around just logistical crap.
I don't know if it's a timing thing, though, as much as that's a
Yeah.
logistics thing. That's like
Yeah.
project managing the thing correctly on the federal government
Yes.
level would solve those problems. Obviously, the Americans are doing it. They're rolling out 3-4 million doses a day. So, like, it's not just about time necessarily. It's just about, like, doing the thing, right? Organizing the rollout. And the thing that frustrates me is, like, we had a year to prepare for this. We knew that. And I remember people saying at the time, like, okay, if we get a vaccine, could be 12 to 18 months before we get a vaccine. The hard part's going to be the rollout. And the government, I guess, looked at that reporting and went, it will be hard, and then did nothing about it.
Yep, will be hard.
Correct.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have won another election by then, and it won't matter.
No, look, it will get better with exponential growth.
Just forever the optimist, Adam. I love you for it.
It should do it. The question will be whether or not how the AstraZeneca announcement will alter the equation. But hypothetically, if that wasn't going to be a problem, then, like, for instance, New South Wales just announced a vaccination hub, right, where they'll be doing thousands a day or whatever. But so as stuff like that comes online, you will find that the amount of, and it's the same thing in the US, like, it takes time to ramp up any sort of program running out. But as to how the AstraZeneca situation will affect things, because if we've got to wait for 20,000 Pfizer vaccines to come in 6 months, 8 months,
20 million in November.
20 million in November, like, what's that going to look like? So I don't know. It'd be interesting if you could do like an opt-in approach, where if you wanted the vaccine, you could still go, and you were under the age of 55, you could go and actually receive it. That'd be an interesting risk solution, where you sign. I mean, you have to sign a waiver when you take these things anyway, but where it is more of an opt-in situation as opposed to something that's been off the table, unless it's worse than what they're saying, and that's why they've pulled it. But,
what do you think in terms of optics for the public, in terms of reporting on these things? What sort of obligations do you think that the media has in terms of, like, disclosing health issues? Because a lot of the rhetoric that we've seen up until this point has been like, it's perfectly healthy, and if you don't like it, you're a fucking anti-vaxxer and you can go fuck yourself. And maybe I've been guilty of that myself a little bit as well, personally. But, like, how deeply should we be talking about these, in retrospect, extremely minor issues that affect just a small fraction of the population? And what do you think that'll do to the rollout? Because it seems like it's going to delay it pretty substantially, because everyone's now afraid of AstraZeneca's vaccine.
Long question. I think I dropped out.
Your camera's frozen, but I can still hear you.
You got leaning back. You're looking very relaxed, but we can hear you just fine.
Yeah. Let me just see if I can restart the video. Look, the news has been. I watch ABC 24 a fair bit as well. The news has been relatively good at still struggling with this video at saying, a small percent. They've emphasised the but by the same token, they've also repeated the same article or stories in 24-hour news cycle. They repeat those over and over again. So while they use the language correctly, they're also, the main headline for about a week and a half has been blood clots, blood clots, blood clots.
Yeah, all people have seen is blood clot / AstraZeneca, right? So
that's just the way it is. Like, you can't really get around that. It's just, people will read the headlines as they read them, and people like your mum or whoever, they're going to have the reaction they're going to have. There's no way to really prevent that. It's a shit optics situation, and there's no way to really fix it.
And what do you think about, like, health reporting on people's reticence to take the vaccine? Because I think generally, a lot of times, I find that's really unhelpful. Just be like, so-and-so is really concerned about taking the the vaccine. And what do you think, person who knows fucking nothing about it? And you go, I don't think I will take it. I don't know if it's safe. And I think that normalizes that point of view to a certain extent. I'd love to know what you sort of, like from a journalism perspective, Tom, what you think the sort of the responsibility is of health journalists in that situation in terms of like reporting on those concerns in the first place.
Yeah, I guess like if the story is literally just here's some vox pops of how like the Tom, Dick, and Harry or whatever feel about the vaccine, not really that helpful. I mean, there's polling for that if they really care. But sorry, we're having some trouble with Adam going back and forth there. If anyone can hear that,
we've been having trouble with Adam for about 10 years at this point. So
fair point.
Just gonna leave the video.
So, there we go. Oh, he can hear us. Oh shit.
Fuck. Sorry.
Yeah, it's more the things that I've been seeing going around, which I find are a bit more helpful, is when you report on these things kind of in a the audience you're going for isn't just to inform people as to like what's public perception currently on the vaccine, more the addressing the concerns you keep seeing cropping up. I feel those articles are going around being like, hey, do you have questions about how the vaccine works? Here are the answers. And like, kind of a bit like an FAQ of like, when should I expect to get it? Here's the things that tell you when it is. Or like, I hear that it causes blood clots. And it's like, actually, no, let's lay out the
some more
stats and let's explain it a bit better.
Yeah,
which is, I think that's good. And that's particularly a kind of journalism that's necessary in the context where societal compliance is a big deal. And the outlets that have been doing that over the past year and a half or whatever of the pandemic have been very useful. Like, because, it's particularly like a lot of the information can get confusing. And if you're just seeing like general hard news, quote unquote, opinionless reporting of just like, hey, cases have come up, or like this is what the lockdown rules are and this is how Steve on the street feels about it, like some people say it's good, some people say it's bad, balance when all the evidence shows that like people actually doing the right thing is the only way that this will work. And if sowing the seeds of that dissent will have a huge negative effect, then you've actually kind of got to consider that in how you report.
I think it's, a lot of it is to do with framing. I do wish it was like, rather than focus on the minority of people who are concerned about it, maybe focus on the majority of people who aren't as well. There are ways of framing the debate. It's not even a debate. Framing the discussion in ways that are more sort of inclined towards the interest of public health. But I not seeing it as much as I would like. It's like, oh, this person's scared. We're scared. You should be scared too. And it's like, I know this is how media works, but it's like, just feels a bit unhelpful right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Adam?
I'm alive. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all social media that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow me on Instagram at AC Doreen.
And make sure you follow us all down to the AstraZeneca Center. No, don't do that. We love your faces. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Just feel a bit weird without the video. It's like I can't look at myself. And
it's perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.